What if the H1B lottery isn't really a random lottery anymore? What if the chances of your selection is not going to be random? It will depend upon how much salary your employer offers you. Surprising, right? Well, that's what it's happening right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host, Sam, and you're watching Immigration Talk Show episode that is going to be live, not just on YouTube, but also LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and we are available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and also on Instagram as well. So, once again, friends, welcome back to our show. And the guest who is going to join us has a lot of expertise in the field of immigration. Let me introduce him, none other than a powerhouse in the world of immigration law, an employment based immigration attorney at Wasden Immigration Litigation, known for handling complex H1B, RFE, and NOID cases and guiding F1, OPT, TN, and E3 visa holders through the immigration process. Let me welcome Attorney Justin Rivera. Hi, Justin. Welcome back to Immigration Talk Show. So glad to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. And friends, the best part is that you can also get in touch with our attorney. You just have to visit the link that will be visible on the screen. With that, you can go ahead, reach out to him and share your cases, ask questions directly to him, and get expert advice from him as well. With that, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. You can also ask questions, put your doubts, put your perspective on the comment section so that we can also understand what is your call to the topic and what you would like to ask from our guest. Okay, so I think, Justin, today the topic is going to be very important and a very necessary one, especially for the H1B applicants, right? The weighted H1B lottery, what to do when things go wrong. So, firstly, I think, Justin, let's begin with the question that is it really true? Is it not going to be a random lottery anymore? I mean, how the situation is right now.
The lottery is still inherently random, but it's weighted, right? So whereas before you were in a circumstance where everyone kind of goes in one time, outside of those with master's degrees who would get two opportunities, there's an equivalency, right? So if you are entered in the lottery, the probability of you being selected in bachelor's cap is the exact same as it is for someone else.
Mhm.
Um, that is no longer the case. Under the new lottery system, there are additional entries essentially based on which wage level you're filed for.
Mhm.
Now, before there was no wage level, there wasn't even a discussion about where the person would be working or what type of job they would be performing. And
Mhm.
now all of that information is has to be shared at the outset of the lottery. And as a result, the wage scale from 1 through 4 gives you a higher probability
Uh,
employers.
mhm. Um, I think, Justin, we lost you
Level
somewhere.
4 positions.
Yeah. I hope you can hear me correctly.
Yeah, I can. So people that are level
Mhm.
4 are going to have a higher probability of selection than someone who's a level 1. And as a result of that, you're going to see people, probably pressing employers to file at a higher wage level, but also you're probably looking at employers making more calculated decisions on, do we sponsor a candidate?
Yeah.
What are our odds of selection? And unfortunately, what what are we willing to pay to make, because it stands to
Mhm.
reason that if you're filing for a level 4 position, you're going to have a very high probability of selection. If
Yeah.
you kind of combine that with the fact that the proclamation, the $100,000 proclamation by the Trump administration, now makes it very difficult, if not impossible, for you to actually file a consular processing case for foreign talent. You're probably looking at people in the United States being the ones that are the majority that are actually registered. So if you're level 4 and there's less people that are going to be less people are going to be entered into the lottery, the odds of you being selected are very high. Alternatively, if you're level 1, your odds of being selected are, significantly lowered. Now, I'm sure there will still be people level 1 that are chosen, But I mean, it stands to reason that those that are level one entries are likely going to have a very difficult time being selected. Now, there's
Mhm.
already been a disdain by the service, particularly the Trump administration, against level one positions, right? They have attempted to push this notion or idea that it's difficult for you to thread the needle of being an entry level position, but also being specialized. So there's already been pushes away from level one for a lot of people because it just makes it harder to get the case approved. So what I would assume is you're going to see a good amount of level two filings, not nearly as many level ones, and then a good amount of level threes and level fours.
All right, all right. That's really informative. Thank you so much, Justin, for explaining these things in a very detailed way and also letting us know about the new thing that is going on right now. And I think the clarity is very much important. So you have explained that for wage level one, it's going to be really difficult and very challenging one. But with that, I also want to know what's about the international students because international students are still, learning things and still they are in the process. So, how they are going to be impacted with this update?
So I think, if you're a student and you've come over here and you've just gotten, a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, I know there's a pretty large pipeline of foreign students who do their bachelor's abroad and then come to the US for a master's.
Mhm.
Uh, you're going to probably have a lower probability of being selected this year, just because you're being filed for at an entry level position. I mean, realistically, if you are graduating college and you only have maybe 1 or 2 years of work experience, you're still going to be qualified as entry level. As a result, that's going to, like I said, lower the probability of selection. Um, and as a result, I think you're going to see less international students being picked this year that are filed for at those lower wage levels. The people who stand to benefit are going to be people who are probably on their masters and on, like their second year of STEM OPT. So they're in a circumstance where they have that 3 years experience or 4 years. 1 second.
Sure. No problem, friends. I think there is some. All right. I think Justin is busy with his pet. But that's okay, friends. I think we are talking about international students, how the future will be for international students. And I think this is the time where you should spread more and more information and try to inform each other by sharing the link of our video because these are the session that we provide for you guys so that you get more clarity, more information, and a better knowledge regarding the immigration field, immigration knowledge. So in case if you're having any doubt or any other question, don't hesitate to put them on the comment section. And I think Justin is back with his lot of
Yeah.
information. So I think
Sorry about
Justin.
that. Yeah, we got a new dog for Christmas, and he's just awful. Um,
That's okay. That's
so,
okay.
anyway, please continue.
Sure. Please go ahead.
I lost where we are. Where are we at?
We were talking about international students, like it's going to be a little difficult for them.
Yeah, well, so I think there is going to be a difficulty in the level one, but there is the benefit of the fact that less uh, people outside the U.S. are going to be registered, right? I
Okay.
think that in the past there was always a large influx of people that were registered in the lottery from India and from China who were, going to be consular processed. These are probably people who have either never been to the U.S. or came to the U.S. and did not get selected in the lottery. They did their STEM OPT and then they left.
Yeah.
So, every year you would have that grouping of people entered in. I think that by and large, those people are going to be removed. I mean, the fact of the matter is if your decision is to pay $100,000 to bring an employee into the United States or to find an alternative visa for them, I think you're going to go with the alternative visa. So while they are disenfranchised by the weighted selection process, they do get some benefit from the fact that there's just not going to be that many people outside the U.S. registering this year.
Wow. I think that's a very important information, Justin, that you shared. And I think with that, there's another question coming in my mind that, of course, we are understanding that, these system, they are trying to, upgrade themselves. And that's why these new updates are coming. But according to you, what do you think that what can be the real goal behind this H1B lottery reform? Do you think that this is Mostly to improve the talent quality or to reduce the number of applicants? What's your call on that?
So the the drumbeat that has been trumpeted by the administration that's presently in charge of the country is that the H-1B visa is a cheap labor visa,
Yeah.
right? It's this idea that uh, foreign talent is able to come in and undercut qualified Americans for positions because they will work for less money. Now, as I've talked about ad nauseum, there are mechanisms that exist to ensure that people are not paid below the prevailing wage level, right? So there's a labor condition application that is enforced by the Department of Labor that ensures that someone is paid, commensurate with their amount of experience and stuff. That all being said, that's completely ignored by the administration because it doesn't fit their anti-immigration narrative. And instead, they say, well, we're going to create a weighted lottery system. The weighted lottery system is going to give employers willing to pay the most money the highest probability of selection, in turn, eliminating the cheap labor that could have been available, right? Um,
Mhm.
it, is that true necessarily? No. But I think that, as everyone knows, we're in year 2 of this administration. We've seen what uh, has looked like, and the goal has been overarchingly limit legal immigration as much as possible. This creates another avenue to do that because what you're looking at now is employers having to make decisions on whether to sponsor an individual, what level they're willing to pay them, and I think really importantly,
Mhm.
especially for like a consulting company, the project itself, right? You're now looking at a position where in years past, after someone was selected, the
Mhm.
employer has a window of time to file their case, right? And during that window, you have an opportunity to move someone to a more lucrative project or confirm that their current project will be extended long enough for them to file the H-1B. All of that kind of goes out the window now because you're having to disclose this information at the time that you're submitting the individual their registration. So that means things like, the work location, the SOC code, the wage level, all of that stuff is set in stone. So you create difficulty there for, um, you know, consulting companies and then other companies as well who are going to have to make more calculated decisions on what exactly they're willing to pay someone to determine to ensure that this person is actually retained with the organization.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that these changes, they're made under the guise that they are improving the process by ensuring that the people paid the most are selected. But I don't necessarily know if that correlates to meaning the most talented individuals are retained, right? If someone's saying I'm going to pay somebody a level 4 wage because I need to keep them with my company, I don't necessarily know if that means that person is a better candidate or employee than another person with a different company who is only able or capable to pay a level 2 wage. And what's interesting about this, and I know that there's a question that we have on it, but I'll discuss it now just to make sure we have time. There was actually discussion about whether or not to sue on the implementation of the weighted lottery system, and major immigration attorney organizations were looking at this. And what happened was initially there had been a push, right, from people because of their clients, their employers, the employers saying, "Hey, we need to attack this because it's harmful to our organization." So that was kind of the initial thought process. And then other companies, larger companies, began getting involved in the process and actually saying, hold on, we don't want to go against this because it's actually beneficial to us. Because we have the capacity and ability to pay these higher wages to the employees, we want the advantage. We want to ensure that we have a higher level of selection. And as a
Mhm.
result, I don't think we've really seen any substantive challenge to the weighted lottery system. So yeah, I think as a result, like I have been talking to other attorneys that I work with, I've worked with in the past. People that rep larger companies have been telling me their numbers remain the same in terms of registration. The amount of people that they are registering for has not dropped off considerably the way that there had been some initial speculation. Now,
Mhm.
the smaller companies, the companies that were looking at, maybe 50 employees or less,
Mhm.
those companies seem to be registering less candidates. And I believe it's likely a culmination of two things. One, the weighted lottery system, and two, the $100,000 fee. I think if you're a smaller company, you're more comfortable trying to get someone into the United States that's outside of the country, as opposed to if you're a larger organization, a Meta, a Google, an Amazon. You kind of get your pick of the litter. You're able to say, these are the people we want to retain. Obviously, the people that are in the United States are going to be the ones that we want. So I think you will see lower numbers this year in registration. I think that that's true, but I don't think that that's going to come from larger companies no longer trying to use the H-1B. In truth, I think that they're going to be the biggest beneficiaries from this process, and they're going to be the ones that kind of game the system and ensuring that they have the highest number of selections.
Wow. That's amazing. I'll say that that's a really positive note, Justin, that you have been, providing to our viewers, and I think that's absolutely correct, because it's not just about luck this time; it's also about your efforts, your skills, and especially the best part is this things will be in your hand, so
Mm.
you can try to be better, you can try to get a good job, you can try to do a lot of things. So with that, I think, Justin, you have been explaining things brilliantly, and we have been understanding also the concept behind this reform. So I think let's also connect with some of our viewers who have joined us live this time. Imran is here, David is here, Sid is here. So, hi guys, welcome to Immigration Talk Show. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure to do it right now, and also, keep on posting questions or any doubts that you have right now. Okay, so Justin, let's take up Imran's question. Imran is saying, if the H1B lottery becomes weighted, how can companies adjust job roles or salaries in a fair and legal way so the applicant has a better chance without risking RFEs or compliance issues?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. There's an OES wage scale, right? And that's what you use to kind of make a determination of whether someone qualifies for, X amount or Y amount of money. And you need to really dive into that and look at what it is that that person's doing, what duties are being performed in order to understand what the wage level should be. Now, an entry level wage position, you're looking at someone who's fresh out of school, just started, 0 to 1 year of experience. That's an entry level position, something that anybody with a degree in a specific specialty can do. Then once you get into, maybe 2 to 5 years, you're looking at level two, somebody who has enough competency to do the job, but still requires oversight, right?
Mhm.
You move higher than that, you're getting into level three. Level three, you're starting to look at someone who has a significant number of years of experience in the field, and also potentially is in a supervisory or managerial role, right, where they're overseeing the work of others. Level four is, the cream of the crop. This is someone who has years of experience, is operating in a high specialized role. You're either a high up supervisor manager, or you are someone who has such a breadth of experience that you are required to be paid the highest wages possible. So when you work backwards from that, you say, okay, I want this person to be level two, because at least then they get two opportunities in the lottery.
Yeah.
You would need to be able to go in and say, what do I need for the position and how does the candidate fit? I need 4 years of experience for the position. Does the candidate have that? If they do, great. If not, then you're going to have to look at the duties and say, how do I mess with these to make them more specialized and complex than entry level? Things like, supporting or assisting, those are entry level type duties. Whereas someone who operates with less oversight, who is more independent, is more so likely to be viewed as level two. And what I think is going to be really interesting to watch is USCIS already has wage level arguments, right? So these are arguments that they have been concocting through FD&S site visits. So they have a process in place where they go site visit a client site and say, hey, what do you require for the position? The client says, 5 years. They go back to the employer, the contracting employer, and say, well, what do you require for the position? The employer says, we only require 1 year. Well, now there's an RFE being issued on whether or not the position qualifies as level one or level two. They have an entire thing that they go through where they say, this is why we think it's level one, or this is why we think it's level two. How do you dispute that? I would not be surprised at all if that is the primary argument that is made in RFEs for cap cases this year. So what I mean by that is, if you are a company that comes in and says, I'm going to game the lottery system by making it a level 4 wage,
Mhm.
and you do a level 4 wage and your case gets selected and then you file, USCIS is going to take a look at that petition and say, is this really a level 4 position, right? Is this really a position that requires this much experience? Or are these job duties, like, are these job duties really lined up with what level 4 is? And then I would not be surprised at all if they issue RFEs saying, we think that based on our review of the position, you've improperly qualified this case as level 4. We likely believe you've done it to game the system and be selected in the lottery. Provide evidence that is counter to that notion. So I am sure that is what they are looking at doing. They will do the same thing on the other side of the spectrum with level 1. Level 1 they'll come out, attack it like they have always done in the past couple of years of saying, is this really a specialty occupation? So I think you'll see that across the board. So it's going to be incumbent on the employers and their representation to actually have gone through the process of ensuring that a position falls within the proper wage category at the time of registration. I'm sure there will be employers who will wait till the last minute to file. They will file without doing an OES review of the position and
Mhm.
then try to work around that once the petition has been selected, the individual's been selected. It will wait and see how that works. I am of the vein that this year we will likely see a return to denial rates that we experienced under the Trump's first administration for cap cases.
Mhm.
I think that in the first year they were not that they were not as extreme as we thought they were going to be. They utilized different tactics. Like, for example, they terminated a bunch of people's sevices as an attempt to try and put them out of status, so their change of status wouldn't be approved. That didn't work. They got sued on it and they had to go back. So this year, I wouldn't be surprised if their method of attack, and I call it that genuinely because it is a method of attack. Their goal is to deny cases. It's not to approve them. And so I think this year, what they will be doing is attacking the validity of the LCA as much as possible. So if you are someone who files at a level 3, I hope that you actually are a level 3. It's a level 3 position. And so we'll see how that turns out. But that would be my inclination based on the RFEs that I've already seen this year and the data that they are able to gather at the registration period of the filing. So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong that there isn't as many denials, but
Mhm.
it wouldn't shock me if there are, and a lot of them I'm sure will end up getting litigated.
Absolutely. I think that's rightly put. And, we are not very much sure, but still we can assume maybe that can be the denial rates or, that can be the scenario. But I think, Justin, you have explained things very nicely. And Imran, I hope you got your answer. In case if you have any follow up question or any other doubt, please do not hesitate to put them on the comment section. We are here live for an hour. And now let's take up another question, Justin. Let's take up David's question. The question is, there has been a lot of discussion about a potential weighted H1B lottery. From your perspective as an immigration attorney, what factors are realistically being considered in this model? And how might it change the selection chances for first time applicants versus those with advanced degrees or multiple registration?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you are a bachelor's cap student, meaning you have just a bachelor's degree, you are going to be in the worst situation that you could be in since the introduction of the lottery process,
Mhm.
because you're going to have the lowest. You're going to be likely filed for as level 1. It would just make sense. Maybe your employer's willing to bump you up to level 2, but it's going to give you the lowest probability of selection, and that's likely in turn going to lead to less individuals being chosen. Now, that being said, there are highly talented individuals that bigger employers may be willing to pay higher wages to bump them up to level 2 or maybe even level 3.
Yeah.
So I think that that's possible. But my inclination is that, yeah, if you have just a bachelor's degree, which I don't mean to besmirch individuals that have just a bachelor's degree, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. But for the sake of the lottery, if that's all you're bringing to the table and your employer is only willing to shell out an entry level wage for a level 1 position, you don't have a very good chance of being selected. There will be people chosen that are level 1. All right. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just how it is. There is still some randomness to the lottery, but I believe overwhelmingly the individuals selected will be the higher wages. Now,
Yeah.
conversely, if we are lowering the number of registrations because of the fact that people outside the United States are probably not going to be registered in a significant capacity, there still should be an increased probability of selection, purely off the fact that there's less numbers. So
Mhm.
we'll have to see what the final selection number is, meaning the final registration entry number is. My assumption is that it will be down significantly from last year. And if that's the case, then even someone who's filing a level one that only has one opportunity for selection, they're still potentially in a better situation than they were in last year if the numbers are significantly lower.
Absolutely. All right. I think that's the answer for David's question. And I can see DK and Sid is also here. Guys, please stay connected, stay tuned, and do not go anywhere. We will definitely take up your question. With that, let me go ahead with my questions too that I have for Justin. So, Justin, I think talking about, till now, you have been giving a lot of information. And also, I want to ask, talking about the chances for the selection in lottery, there are certain situations where someone gets a salary increase after registration. So can that also give a chance, to improve the selection in lottery?
No,
Okay.
because once the registration's entered, it's locked in. I don't think USCIS would care that much if after selection you
Mhm.
came back and said we're actually going to file for this person at a higher wage level, right? There's not necessarily language in the regulations that says that that's not a permissible act.
Mhm.
But what is illegal is going the other way. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you level three selection and it's time to file and you try to file at a level one. There is already language in the regulation that very clearly states any attempts to game the system will lead to a denial. So that means if you file with a different wage level that's lower, it's going to be a denial. If you get approved and after October 1st, you think that you can sneakily file an amendment to lower someone's wage down,
Mhm.
that's going to result in a denial. So all of the gamesmanship that, people have put forth as potential opportunities, all of that has been pushed in the regulation in a way that really is going to make it difficult to game the system at all. To a point that I just don't think people are even going to bother to try.
All right. All right.
Well, someone will. There's always one idiot. One idiot. Someone will try, but they will be caught.
Absolutely. I think this is a very important question, Justin, because people are quite confused about because they are thinking that what if they are going to do something, take a shortcut or do something, uh,
Mhm.
a different way. But I think that's how you have to be very much genuine, and USCI is going to keep a very, I'll say, a very sharp eye on your actions, on your things. So just keep that in mind. And with
Right.
that, yeah, with that, I think. Sid's question, let's take up Sid's question. And he's saying, hi, what is the typical processing time you're observing for NIW, Ivan 40 standard petitions? USCIS is just increasing the processing time on their website from 11 to 17 to now 20 months. Yes, Justin.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak specifically to NIW. I'm just going to give you kind of a more broad explanation. USCIS is increasing processing times across the board because USCIS is, their ultimate goal right now is to delay, and deny, right? They want adjudications to take as long as possible because if an adjudication, goes over a certain period of time and an individual is not able to continue working, then
Mhm.
USCIS is going to count that as a win because that person's going to lose their job and then they're going to be able to say, well, that's one less immigrant or non-immigrant that is holding a position. So I think that processing times have increased across the board. I think they're going to continue to increase. While it's not talked about directly in the news as much anymore, we are still under a partial government shutdown, and that is for DHS, right? And as a result of that, you've seen pretty calculated furloughing in a way where it's basically like we're going to furlough the people who provide oversight or provide assistance and those are the people who are going to bear the brunt of this while we keep people like enforcement officers for FDNS out on the streets doing their job because they're mandatory. So I think that yeah, you're probably going to be looking at 17 months to 20 months, honestly, possibly longer. Here's the fact of the matter: mandamus.
Mhm.
And if you're like, what is that? Go Google it. Mandamus lawsuits are going to be pounded against this administration for this year and the next 3 years. The fact of the matter is that USCIS, as a government agency, is supposed to timely adjudicate petitions and make every effort to do so. Now, they're not. And it's pretty evident that they're not, because we've seen processing times increase. What doesn't make sense is DHS has been allocated a larger budget. Specifically for USCIS services, are a fee-based agency that has also increased prices. If you have more money going in, then the quality of processing of cases should go up, and
Yes.
it's not. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is that it is intentional. USCIS last year had a good number of cases that were denied, that were sued on, and eventually reopened. As a result of that, I think that their current model is not so much about rendering a decision as opposed to just not adjudicating. And if you're sitting there saying, well, why would they want to do that? Because if they don't adjudicate your case, then you don't get the benefit. So if they can sit on your case as long as possible, you hopefully lose your employment opportunity. I have 2 cases right now that I have taken on since this January. Both cases have had their premium processing clocks stopped, been given no reason or justification why they have been stopped, and are continuing to pend. One was an H-1B, should have been adjudicated within 15 days. We are now in March, and the case has not been adjudicated. The other is an I-765 for STEM OPT employment. This individual filed their case last July. Their case is still not adjudicated. Their premium processing clock was stopped, and every time they reach out to the premium officer, they are told, your case is with an officer, it's in line for adjudication, nothing can be done to expedite your case. Both of those people are currently in situations where they are on leave from their employers because they don't have the ability to work. So that's mandamus. To give you a point, mandamus. That is going to be the word of the year for immigration, because our law firm is filing mandamus lawsuits. I know 2 other law firms that are actively filing mandamus lawsuits, and that's probably for now going to be the only way that you push them to adjudicate your case. Now, will that happen to everyone? No, of course not. If you work for Meta, you're probably going to be okay. If you work for Google or Amazon or, whatever, you're probably going to be okay. The smaller companies that lack the intricate relationship by their owners with the present administration are likely going to be the ones that bear the brunt of these kinds of problems. And that's not to say that I'm speaking specifically to H-1Bs. For F1, for students, it's fair game on everyone. I've seen them doing this kind of crap to people that work at Amazon. So in that regard, I don't think they care. But on the H-1B front, I do think that there's a little bit of favoritism that's going to be shown to the companies that had people that were sitting next to Mr. Trump during his inauguration.
All right. I think those were really eye opening pointers, Justin, that you put. And I think those were really amazing. It's not just important, but it's also very interesting to listen to you. So I think our viewers are also enjoying the conversation and also the factual pointers that you have been putting up. But also, I can see DK has a very interesting question, and though you have answered, but let me take it again. DK is asking, what is the best guess on the total registration for this year? What's your call on that?
I mean, I don't know. I think there was 480,000 last year,
Okay.
something like that.
Mhm.
Or no, it decreased. So it went down, I think, to 336,000 for last year from 442. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's another decrease this year, and you probably go under 300K, maybe down to 250. And that's just a guess. I mean, if it was lower than that, I wouldn't be shocked. Because it's very hard without the raw data to dig in and be able to look at which ones of these people were consular processing, right? That information is not available because that's information that only would occur at the time of filing. So because I don't know that, I can't be 100% certain. I will say that, I know enrollment in colleges is down, but I don't think we're going to feel that impact until 2 or 3 years into the future in terms of these younger kids graduating and going into the lottery. What we're more so going to see is just the decrease from not people outside the U.S. no longer being registered, and I do think that realistically, a good amount of smaller companies are going to try, move away from registering large quantities. I mean, I can tell you guys anecdotally that I represent, between 8 to 10 companies, and I think my registration numbers have dropped probably by 20%. I think that's realistic. That it might be worse. It depends on what kind of organizations you represent. I do know that the really big companies, they're still registering people at the same levels they did last year, but they're just not touching the foreign candidates. So yeah, I would say 300K to 250. And if it was lower than that, my eyes wouldn't pop out of my head. I wouldn't be shocked. But I do think, it's difficult because what you're balancing here is the company's needs versus the employee's needs, right? If you're an employee, if you came to the U.S., you got a degree, and your goal was to long-term live and work in the U.S., you need to go in the lottery. You want to be selected. But if you're an employer, you're now looking at, a hostile iteration of DHS that seemingly does not like the H-1B program, doesn't want to approve cases, is very forward with their beliefs that consulting companies are all fraudulent actors, or the majority of them are. And so I think that there is definitely going to be companies that say, we're going to fly under the radar this year. We'll see how year one of the weighted lottery goes, and maybe we'll do next year, or maybe we'll register 5 or 6 people. Whereas last year we would do 20, and I think you'll see a little bit more of selectivity in that regard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's rightly put. I hope, DK, you got your answer, and thank you so much for your participation. I'll just say one thing, friends, that, this is a really very important time and a very crucial time, specifically for H1B visa applicants. This time, I'll say that it is very important to have the right guidance. To get the right guidance, you can also get in touch with Attorney Justin Rivera. The link will be visible on the screen, but that you can reach out to him, ask your question, directly share your case, or talk about it one on one. That will be the best thing for you. With that, DK has another question, Justin. What will be the impact on the H1B program with the new sets of questions on the I-129? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that the goal is to attack the LCA and its validity, and to attack the position qualifying as a specialty occupation, right? Because those new questions on the I-129 are very specific in regards to, what degree is required for the position, how many years, things like that. Because of those questions, it gives USCIS more of a raw data point to look at and say, this is what you said in the forms. Now, has anyone else said something differently? Last year, I predicted that there was going to be an increase in FD&S investigations. There was, right? FD&S had been made mandatory, meaning it was no longer a voluntary process. There had been more money allocated to DHS, so it completely spoke to reason that there was going to be more investigations. I think that this year, you are going to see another explosion of investigations in September, October, and November. My guess is that USCIS will arm FD&S with as much information as possible and send them out into the world with the goal of revoking petitions. And they will accomplish that goal primarily through the new information that is being requested in the I-129 petition. What they want to do is move away the idea that the information in the LCA belongs to DOL. And what they want to do is say, this is our data, you put it in the I-129, you verified it, and now we are saying that we are going to revoke your case based on that information. So I think you're going to see a lot more FD&S investigations, and I think you're going to see a lot of opportunity to try and speak directly with the beneficiary, or if an individual works in an in-client, with the in-client, to find a discrepancy between the information that's provided in the petition and then the information that is provided by another party. And this is where it becomes pivotal that you work with an attorney. We do FD&S defense. I'm sure other firms do that as well. That is something that is pivotal now. I cannot stress enough, the fact that no one should be having conversations with USCIS without an attorney present anymore. USCIS over the past year has shown that they will twist statements made by individuals without the presence of counsel, that they will manipulate information that's provided, or that they will straight up fabricate information to their whims, with the end game being, revoking the individual's petition. So that new information, that update was timely done, right? It was done right before registration. And I do think it was done with the intent of ensuring that the service can accumulate more data points to revoke and deny petitions.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Justin, for your answer. And I think, friends, this is absolutely very well put up. Like, if you are trying to have a contact or have a conversation with USCIS, it is always advisable that this time, please have a right guidance from the immigration attorney. With that, I think Attorney Justin Rivera is here. You can go ahead and reach out to him. Okay, so thank you so much, DK, for your question. And I'll just say, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, do it right now. Do not miss any important update regarding immigration. Okay, so Sid is here, and I think Sapna is also here. Sapna is, I think, a new joiner. So hi, Sapna, and welcome to Immigration Talk Show. I hope you're, getting a lot of information from our topic and with this episode as well. So Justin, Sapna has a question for you, that can we ask the immigration consultant for a receipt or proof if they have filed or applied for H1B this year?
I mean, yeah, they should be able to show you proof of submission through USCIS's portal. Like when you go in, the way it works is when people become submitted, their name then appears in the company's roster, essentially, which shows if an individual has been submitted. Now it'll remain under submitted until selections run, right? And then those who are chosen will update to selected, and those who were not will remain submitted. Reason for that is USCIS will initially select a set number of cases and then will give people opportunities to file. Now, during that filing process, there are companies who will end up not filing cases. There will cases that will be denied. So what that does is it gives USCIS a cushion and the possibility to run a second lottery if they need to. So if you're not chosen the first time, there's a possibility another lottery will run. So you're going to wait and see. After that timeline elapses for the second lottery, everyone who was not selected will switch from submitted to not selected. So your employer can absolutely prove that they have registered for you by taking a screenshot of their submitted page, which will show the individuals that have been submitted into the H-1B lottery. So, because I've definitely heard some more nefarious employers are, lip servicing people, a lot of times people that are on their first year of OPT, or, someone who they don't really want to put on H-1B because they can pay them a lower wage level while they're on that F-1. And they'll tell them, we'll register you for the lottery, but then they won't actually do it. Well, there's a way for you to verify that, and that is to get them to show you the USCIS page that has the submitted individuals for the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Sapna, for participating in today's conversation. And stay tuned, stay connected. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do it right now, and that will be really beneficial for you. Okay, so Justin, I think let me go ahead with my very important question this time, because, as you have been talking about H1B visas, and you have said that it will be little difficult for the H1B visa applicants this year too. So what can you say that can we say that some companies started or can start hiring workers outside the US instead of sponsoring the H1B visas?
So I think that what you are going to see, because like what I said at the beginning of this, when the H-1B proclamation was put forth, the $100,000 fee,
Yeah.
what I said with this was, if you're an employer and your options are to retain someone that is a foreign talent individual or pay a US based worker more money, you're probably going to outsource that job. What I think is going to happen, which again is just speculation, I think you're going to see great outsourcing. I think you're going to see another movement to offshore employees. You're probably going to see more people being hired in India and other countries, and they're likely going to be told, hey, we're going to put you on an L1 route.
Mm-hmm.
So what an L1 route is if it's a multinational company, you work with our foreign affiliate for a year, and then we bring you in for an L1, either L1A for a manager or an L1B for specialized knowledge. So I think you're going to see that. I think you'll see employers say, "Hey, is this person qualified enough for an O1? Is this an alternative option of what we can do to bring them in
Mm-hmm.
under a different visa?" I mean, I think that you're going to see people try to get smart in a way where they're able to utilize the current visas in other categories and move away from the H1B. And in doing that, I think you will see more offshoring. You will see more people hire foreign individuals and probably just put them on that L1 path.
All right, all right, all right, Justin. I think continuing with that question, I just got this question from one of our viewer on my WhatsApp number, and the question is that what options do you have if your employer withdraws the H-1B petition after selection? Firstly, can that be possible? And if yes, then I mean, how is that person going to handle this?
So the way it works is to be on H1B, you have to actually spend a day on H1B. So if you are registered in the lottery and selected, your petition is submitted to USCIS, adjudicated, and approved. You
Yeah.
cannot be on H1B until October 1st, right? Beginning of the fiscal year. If your employer withdraws the H1B before October 1st, it is as if the H1B never happened. So you are not on an H1B. You are not eligible to transfer your H1B. You are not what is called cap exempt. So if your employer withdraws your H1B before 10/1, you're SOL. Nothing you can do. If they withdraw after 10/1, then you have an opportunity to try to transfer your employment. But it's very nuanced, right? It's literally 10/1 is that day. So you're screwed. And I do want to make a point here because I think it is always important to make this point. You cannot shop your selection. And what I mean by that is, if you're selected and, four companies registered you, then okay, you have the potential for these companies to sponsor you, right? They do. But you cannot be selected in the lottery with ABC Corporation and then go to Walmart and say, Walmart, I want you to do my H1B, right? That's not how the process works.
Yeah.
And I know that seems silly, but what happens, unfortunately, is the situation you just explained, where an individual is selected, but then the employer says, I don't want to file for you. Like, I don't want to, business needs to change. And then that person becomes desperate and says, well, can I go to another employer? No, unless that employer registered for you, no, you're not able to do that. So if that's the case, I feel bad for you, but the truth is you may as well take your selection notice, bundle it up, throw it in a garbage can, because that's all it's worth.
Well, that's pretty sad and that's very disheartening. But
No, it sucks. I mean, you feel really bad for it. Like I mean, I've been doing this job 8 years now, and one of the worst parts of the job is when someone gets selected in the lottery because you already don't have a high probability of selection. The selection rate last year was 30 to 35%. And you get selected in the lottery, and then you have an employer that just says, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like that's a horrible situation for that person because what are the odds that they're going to be selected again?
yeah.
Or do they even have enough opportunity with work authorization to remain in the United States long enough to get to that next lottery?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very well put up. All right. So, Justin, I think let me also ask what immigration strategies should one consider if somebody lose the H-1B lottery multiple times?
If you lose multiple times, go look up an O1, look at what the requirements are for an O1, and start figuring out how you can meet those requirements. Another option can be EB2 and IW, but as our associate was saying earlier, those processing times are becoming Herculean at this point because it's just 2 years at this point.
Yeah.
But I am pushing to people the O1 visa. The O1 visa is for the very top,
Yeah.
and it's not an easy visa to get, but it does not have a lottery. It is a visa that you do not have to rely on any level of randomness for.
Yeah.
I am telling anyone now that comes to the United States and is studying to get a master's degree, you need to be looking right now at what the O1 requirements are. Not after the lottery is run 3 times and you haven't been selected. You need to be working on publishing papers, speaking engagements, judging, judging scholarly work, all of those things you can see online and find a way for you to fit in those categories. There are companies that will work with you to polish you up and get you to fit into into the hole that is necessary to qualify for the O1. You need to be careful with those companies. You need to ensure that there's a level of legitimacy to them, right? Because you don't want to pay money to people that are just going to take your money and scam off, or they're going to give you lackluster services. The other option you have is to work with an attorney. I probably do 2-3 consultations a month where I am just looking through someone's qualifications for an O1. And, in doing that, I'm able to help people get into positions where they feel comfortable filing and they feel like they're going to have a high probability of success. But that would be my advice for you. If you are in year one of going into the lottery and you're not selected, if you are in, the last year of your studies getting your master's, start looking at the O1 visa and seeing how, if at all, you're able to qualify.
Absolutely, that's very well put up. And I think talking about also, Justin, to get as it is a higher wage level system, they have more chances of getting selected in the lottery system. So I want to know it from you that it is not possible for people to directly get into a higher wage level, because they have to start initial time, they start from lower wage level only. So for them, most of the time they think if they can switch the companies, if they can switch the location. So will that make any difference, switching the location or switching the company, or how it can be?
So switching your location will impact what you're paid, right? Because the wage level is determined by what the prevailing wage is in the area of intended employment. So the area of intended employment is a hell of a lot higher in, say, California than it is in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
So if I, for example, had an employee that lived in, I don't know, Ohio,
Yeah.
and I want to sponsor them, I can probably pay them, $95K and get away with level 2 for that person in Ohio. If
Mm-hmm.
I try to pay that same person in, say, Alameda County in California for that level 2 wage, I'm probably paying them $150,000.
Okay.
So there is definitely a way where you can, utilize the work location
Yeah.
as a way to help increase the wage level, but not have to pay an exorbitant amount of money. And something that I've thought is interesting, and it's just something that people have kind of begun to work with as we parse out the weighted lottery and the H1B increase in wages and everything, is why aren't companies utilizing this more? Why aren't you? And I'm not saying you even have to move the whole company there.
Yeah.
In theory, you could just tell your employees, you want to work with us? Move to Ohio,
Yeah.
move to North Dakota, move to Wyoming or Wisconsin or whatever these states are that have these lower wage levels. If you think about it, that has a double whammy of being beneficial, right? Places that have lower levels of population get an increase in population, they get an increase in tax revenue, and they get an increase in their economy through spending. And in the alternative, the organization, the company, gets to pay a lower wage.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that, if I were working in government, that would be something I'd be shopping. I'd be saying, like, where are we more economically disenfranchised? Nebraska, for example, like, where are these places that they need bodies, that they need workers, that they need tax revenue?
Yeah.
Mississippi, maybe. And how do we set it up to where H1B employees want to go there? And how their employers can help them do that. I think that'd be a phenomenal strategy. I would love to game that out with a company if they would be willing to do it. But so far, like I said, I haven't seen any of that. On the other side, if you are the employee, maybe you don't want to live in some of those places. Maybe that will kind of color whether or not you do want to work with that organization. But I think it's a small price to pay for getting an H1B.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's not going to be a very hectic. That's going to be a very simple process, and I think working from office will give more productivity and will automatically increase, country's revenue, company's revenue. So I think it will be all like winning situation everywhere.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be really funny if there was just a massive influx of immigration to, like, Nebraska, and just a place that doesn't have high levels, but they're all like, well, we can pay a level 3 wage and only pay 130K. So, but yeah, well, I see we're pretty close in time. So, I mean, I do want to tell you, thank you very much for having me on. It's
Sure.
been a very fun hour. Probably one of my most enjoyable hours of the day, as I have to get back to registering people in the lottery, which is not nearly as fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much for having me.
All right, no worries, Justin. Thank you so much, and it's almost time. I'll just say that it was really fun, to have this conversation with you, and with that, I also got to learn a lot of new information from you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on the show. We won't keep you waiting. It's okay. You can take a leave, and I hope soon we are going to have another very important and amazing session with you. Till then, goodbye and take care. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day. Bye.
Same here. Thank you, Justin. All right, friends, so that's all for today's episode. I hope you got your answers. In case if you still have any questions or doubts remaining with you, do not hesitate to put them on the comment section. Maybe after this session, we will definitely provide answers to you, or the solution to your problems as well. Till then, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. And this is me, your host, Sam. Till then, guys, take care and good luck, everybody.